I am so happy to be talking to this fabulous musician, Peter Sterling. Now, I've known about your music and love your music, but it's interesting because you're in one of my favorite places of all the world, Sedona. And you have a fascinating story about how you began playing harp music, and it all kind of started there in Sedona, didn't it?
It sure did. Yes, it did. Cindy, thank you so much for having me on your show today.
Yeah.
And I am talking to you from Sedona, Arizona, beautiful Sedona. I'm looking out my window and I can see Thunder Mountain reaching up right in front of me here. And it's a beautiful day on this Halloween day. So, yeah, this is where it all began for me some, really 30 years ago when I came to Sedona. And I was, drawn here by a mysterious force. I had heard rumors of a powerful vortex area in the desert southwest in this little town, and back when I first heard about it, this was before we had the internet, so you couldn't just go online and check it out. It was kind of a secret of Sedona back in those days, but there was a calling, so I came here. An opportunity presented itself for me to come down and explore Sedona from where I was living in Colorado. I was a ski instructor.
Oh.
It was the end of the ski season in the spring, and so I came down here, and man, the first time I drove down Oak Creek Canyon from Flagstaff, I was absolutely blown away by the beauty of Oak Creek Canyon and the red rocks. I didn't know what to expect, for me it was really amazing because I didn't see any pictures of Sedona. As I said, there was no internet at that time, so I just came from word of mouth and hearing of this amazing rock formations, and you got to see this place. And this was actually right after the harmonic convergence of 1987, which was kind of the a Mayan calendar date where people gathered all over the world on August 16th and 17th. And so that's really what put Sedona kind of on the map in the New Age in modern times. And so I came right after that, after thousands of people had come to Sedona for the harmonic convergence, and then everybody started talking about it. I heard, so I came down, boy, really blown away by the beauty, by the energy, by the feeling. And for me, it was like almost immediately when I was driving down through Oak Creek Canyon, my heart just kind of blew open. I was just feeling there, a familiarity, and there was this feeling for me, and this is very common with people. It felt like home. Like somehow I knew this place.
Yeah.
Even though I was seeing it for the first time in this life, it seemed familiar with me strangely somehow. And so when I ventured, into this town and met the people and explored the trails and the canyons, there was this whole awakening to this memory that I had of being in Sedona. And as I said, this is a common experience with people, but so I ended up moving there shortly thereafter.
Wow.
I was so struck by the place.
The calling was that loud. That was a loud calling.
Yes, it was. And so I was, and I write about this in my book, Cindy. It's called Hearing the Angels Sing. So, true story of angelic assistance, and that's on Amazon, and you can get the Kindle versions and all of that. But
because you literally did hear. You had a vision, right? And you did hear the angels sing.
I did. Well, it kind of unfolded, in sequence. As I was saying, initially there was this feeling of home, and then I ended up moving there, and then I started exploring the canyons and the outback country there, and the vortexes and the power spots, and meditating and doing all sorts of, crystal healing and New Age shamanic techniques of every sort, working with crystals, working with flower essences and tinctures and chiropractic and emotional clearing and inner child work, and doing all the stuff that you do when you come to Sedona and you go through your process, because it's a major healing and awakening that occurs for people here, especially here. It's very amplified. But ultimately what happened was when I would explore the outback backcountry canyons here with the ancient Indian ruins and the vortexes and things out by Boynton Canyon. And I started the silence in the canyons was so profound for me. There was a palpable energy and a tranquility and a silence, like an energy field, but a deep, deep silence back in the day when I was, really exploring and doing this inner work there, that I went into a deep meditation. And so I ended up actually giving away most of my possessions. I moved into a Volkswagen van, and I lived in my car ended up being for 3 years. I lived in my Volkswagen van.
Really?
Yeah, and I just slept every night out in the canyons. Now, in the winter months, I took off and went to Hawaii for a few months because it was too cold. But most of the year, I was just living in my car during this time. That's when I was on my hero's journey, on my inner quest to find out, who I am, why am I here, what's my mission, all the big questions that so many of us, when we go on our journey of awakening.
Well, that's kind of like the Joseph Campbell story, right?
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Well, and I write about this in my book in great detail. It's really the hero's journey. It's an archetypal journey that we all go through. We all have our own stories of how we awoke. Mm-hmm. Saw the light, right? But you'll notice when you hear people's stories, there's these similar themes that kind of run throughout, of triumph and success, heartbreak, loss, up and down that we all go through. So we learn all these very powerful lessons. So I was, in this process, but going into this deep meditation in the canyons of the silence. And ultimately what happened was that I opened up myself, and I had a series of transcendent experiences where it was really out-of-body experiences where really like my kundalini and my energy activated so much, and my meditations became so deep that I was able to really transport myself into another realm. Mm-hmm. And I was actually taken it turned out my guides were with me. I was communicating to them. I was calling in the ancient Indian spirits of the canyons, the elders, the ancient ones, to at that time teach me how to walk on the planet, the four directions and the Native American, teachings and all of that. But then the meditation with my yoga out in the canyon, doing fasting and all sorts of things where I just went deep into the silence, and out of that, because that was the message I was getting, was just go inside, go deep inside, go into the silence, This is what all the great teachers have always told us. Mm-hmm. Go inside, go deep inside, go into the silence and sit and be and listen and open yourself up. So that's what I did. And all of a sudden I began to hear, the subtle strains of some sort of music out in the canyons. And at first I thought maybe somebody was out there playing a portable stereo, cassette mm-hmm. player or something with some classical music that was being carried by the wind and everything. But then I just realized that I was tuning into an inner music, and I was aware of this because a lot of the masters have spoken of the inner sound and the inner music, or the music of the spheres. So, all of a sudden I started to hear the angelic choirs, and they started to sing to me, or I started to hear them, and my whole body began to quiver and shake. It was so powerful that it actually moved me to tears many times, mm-hmm. and that I just, there was a voice speaking to me. I could hear the inner voice. That my guides were so clear. Just trust, surrender, and let go, and let the music take you on a journey. So I did that, and I was just taken out of my body on several experiences, and I write about this in my book, where I was taken to the other side. I was taken into the angelic realms, into the celestial spheres, and I could see that the angels were with me, and they took me on a series of journeys where it's profound. It was almost beyond description, but I did a pretty good job in my book of describing what I experienced. Just the most beautiful light. The feeling of love and oneness, of divine love, is just unimaginable. Yeah. Unimaginable, and so exquisite and ecstatic and rapturous, really. And so the angels live in this realm of just the most exquisite beauty and sublime light, and just everything permeates with love and oneness in the unified field of love. And I felt it was really a life-changing experience. It was like a near-death experience. And many people that have had NDEs report a similar feeling that they also saw on the other side, right? So,
I totally agree. I had an enlightening experience when I was about 15. I started meditating when I was 14. And it is exactly, and I do many interviews with people with NDEs, near-death experiences, and it is very, very similar to that light and the love and the exquisite understanding that comes is just so powerful and beautiful. You don't really want to leave it. It's so fantastic, right? The bliss is.
Oh yeah, well it was. I did have a hard time. It was not easy to go on these journeys and experience such incredible beauty, and then kind of come back into my human life where I was operating with some limitation and lack and struggling at times, and I was like, oh, I just want to be with the angels,
Yeah.
So
that's what led to your Harp Magic CD?
Right. So ultimately what happened was, as I went on these journeys, then the angels, because at the time, as I said, I was asking the big questions: who am I? Why am I here? What's my mission? And the angels came as messengers to me, and they told me that my mission was to be a channel for the heavenly sounds of which I had heard and which had, I had experienced with them, and that they said that, together we will work as a team, and you will be the ground crew, and we will work from the higher planes to bring through some very, very special music for this time of the great planetary awakening into the golden age, the long prophecy golden age of man, which we are literally standing on the threshold of right now. It's so poignant right now for humanity, as we're faced with such challenges, but there is so much hope.
Yes.
Obviously, we're seeing just incredible technological feats, and we're learning ways to clean up the oceans and to make free energy and harness the energy of the sun and the wind and different things. Electric cars now, really on the threshold of the future vision here. And the angels want us to know that it is our destiny to rise above the fray of what we see that's happening right now, which is so saddening to the human spirit to see such, dark things happening right now, especially in the last few days.
Yes.
But don't lose hope that
right.
there is a grander vision that the masters and the angels and the ascended ones, the beings of light, hold for the true destiny of mankind. To be of universal brotherhood and to unite with the star brothers and sisters and to gain entrance into the galactic, federation as we're starting to stretch out into space farther and farther. I mean, we have to get this together so that we can get entry into the higher realms of space and all that.
Absolutely.
So we're really on the verge. But, yeah, out of that silence, the angel told me this was my mission and that I was to play the harp and that we would work together. So, eventually I said, yes, I will do this, and how could I resist this love and this light? And I remembered this, and so within a short time, a matter of days, a harp came into my life through synchronicity, a small little Celtic lap harp, and I took this harp and I just walked out into the canyons of Sedona with my little harp, and I would find a special place to sit and play and just let my hands touch the strings free and just strumming the strings. And out of that, an energy came over me. My fingers actually started to play on the instrument like I knew what I was doing, and it really came through strong. And I later realized that, the angels were channeling through me. I had one angel in particular that was like, hovering above me, behind me, and then at times actually merged with me where they were actually by playing through me, teaching me how to play the harp. And it happened so quickly, Cindy, that 10 months later I made my first recording. And I wasn't a musician really at that time.
That's amazing.
I was in my early 30s, and I just took this harp without any formal lessons. My hands started to move on the strings, and melodies and songs just emerged very rapidly. And 10 months later I made my first recording called Harp Magic. And it ended up getting, with the angels' assistance, it got discovered by a record label that I signed a contract with in the early 90s, and they released it worldwide to critical acclaim, and it was nominated for String Album of the Year. My first album, I've only been playing for 10 months without any, I don't read music or anything. It was all just played from my heart, and people just they could feel it. Well,
I want to make sure we get time to talk about.
That's how it all began.
I'd love to talk about your lovely.
Later,
you decided to take it to like this amazing level with these special tours, and you found a harp that I really had never heard of. That is called, was it called an air harp, where the wind?
Oh, the wind harp.
Wind harp,
yeah.
Where the wind actually is able. It's got to be amazing to hear the wind speaking through the harp. And then you now lead tours where people can go with you. And have this experience. It sounds so fantastic, Peter.
It is. I hope you can come sometime.
Oh, I
Cindy,
will.
I'll
Yeah.
take you. That's well. What I've been doing backcountry tours, jeep tours here, to the sacred sites, the power spots, and the vortex areas for 30 years. So, and I've explored the region here. I know it. It's like, by the palm of my hand. So, and I've had so many amazing experiences myself. So, on my website also is my tour page. So you can take a look at that at harpmagic.com. And you can see my art gallery and also my tour page with pictures and a video of my tours. But basically, I take people out into the canyons, and I call in the angels with my harp. I hold it up to the wind. It's a small harp, and the wind plays and vibrates the strings. And it's the most beautiful, heavenly, celestial tone, unlike anything you've ever heard. And I play it over you and over and around your body. I often lay my clients down on a beautiful rock ledge that overlooks a exquisite panoramic view of the canyons, and I do a whole prayerful healing experience with the angels and the sound of the wind harp, and I often carry a crystal bowl and tuning forks and other healing sound tools that I have, and my frame drum, we do shamanic drumming. I play my native flute, also the harp, so I mix it up depending on how the spirits guide me, the angels guide me to work with my clients. So yeah, it's wonderful, and people love it. And,
well, I'm sure
so,
it's nothing else like anyone could experience anywhere else. So I'm kind of curious. It's interesting because I know you probably know Peter Cater. He lives here on Maui.
Oh yeah,
and he's had people actually lay underneath his
yes.
his Grammy. The one he finally won the Grammy. He'd been nominated all these times, but finally he won the Grammy by having the people lay under his piano, and he created music from the vibe that he got where they were laying under the piano. Now, I'm curious, with your harp music on these tours, do different people have different sounds that come forth, or are the different vibrations different for different people?
Yes, it's always different, and it's really interesting because I'm using the wind to make the sound. That it's very interesting to see how the wind responds, because I'm calling in the angels, I'm calling in the elementals,
Mm-hmm.
the wind spirits,
Mm-hmm.
and they respond to our evocations, our invocations, and they come, and it's really interesting to see, like, one person, the wind will be very strong, and it'll make the heart, just be more loud and just more intense.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll go to the next person, and the wind will kind of all of a sudden die and be very soft, and it'll be just a very gentle kind of a soothing serenade from the wind harp for that person's spirit. I'll go to the next person, and the wind will kick up. So it's very interesting to see. Yes, it responds differently to each person.
That's so fantastic. And for these people who have the opportunity to experience it, it's got to be unlike anything they've ever done before.
No, it's if you're into sound healing, this is a truly unique and one of the most beautiful experiences you can ever have, because I actually lay the harp onto the body, so you feel the vibrations. Now, what the angels have told me about it, and they told me that these are ultra high frequency harmonics, because the harp is the most pure harmonic string instrument there is, and it's always been for millennia and for centuries and for thousands of years. That's why the harp was used in ancient Egypt and Greece and Sumeria, and in the ancient healing temples of Atlantis, and through the whole of Celtic lands. And to make, Merlin played the harp. You can make magic on the harp because it's the most magical instrument there is.
Mm-hmm.
The sound is it's the most pure tone, right? So when I play it on people's bodies, it has the ability to bring healing into the body. It heals the nervous system, because the nerves are like strings. So when I bring pure harmonics, and I tune the harp sometimes to 432, but when you experience those pure harmonics with all the layers of overtones, and I put it on the body, it has the ability to disperse and to break up and disperse stuck energy in the energy field, in the tissue of the body, in the chakras, in the energy system, stuck energy and blocked energy in the nerves, and it can release pain, and people often, start crying from it. There can be an emotional release oftentimes. It's very, very beautiful, very powerful, and I've had people tell me that, I love to play it on people's hearts, and I've had many people where all of a sudden just the emotion explodes out one person said that their heart had been closed their whole life for the last, 10 or 20 years, and they had this pain. All of a sudden, they just started weeping and crying, and I just encouraged them to let it go. And then after it was over, they said, "Oh my God, you just took something out of me." And from that point on, like, they lived as this joyous, happy person. Like, their joy level just increased, like, in their life, because they were carrying a heavy weight in their heart. And so the harp, working with the angels, because the way I do it is really an alchemy with the angels and the ascended masters and all of the way I do it. It's very, very powerful. So come and experience it. And I invite your listeners to come. If you're coming to Sedona, please consider going out on one of my special Sedona Sacred Land journeys.
How do people book this, Peter?
Well, they go to my website, Harp Magic, and I have my email there. They can write me at peterharpmagic.com for details. And I don't post any prices or anything on my website. It's all pretty low key. So, and it's all from referrals. The way that I do these tours, I'm not out there advertising these tours. It's just people are kind of drawn to me. It's all very it's personal referrals and very synchronistic the way people find me.
Well, it's such a fantastic thing and such a great gift and a way to find your calling. Of course, it all happened because you listened to your calling. It wouldn't have happened if you hadn't made that move from Colorado to Sedona. Then continue to share that wonderful beauty of the magic of the harp in the fantastic, mind-blowing rocks, the red rocks, and the vibe of Sedona, which is so, so powerful. So I really honor what you're doing, Peter. It's such a great gift. Your latest CD is called?
Yes, the new CD that just came out on October 1st is called Magic Kingdom, and it's a very special recording. I got to say that I haven't had a record like this that has a they're all special, but this one, there's something very, very special about it. And the stories, the reviews I'm getting, the comments from people, from the top people really in the music industry, and people are really being moved by this. It's called Magic Kingdom, and it's a beautiful record. It came through. The way it came through was a year ago, this last August, during the total solar eclipse, and I was here in Sedona with a group of friends, and we went up for the totality of the eclipse up to the Tibetan stupa here.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And I took my solar telescope so we could actually look through the telescope and see the sun and see the sunspots and watch the whole thing. And everybody who was up there got to look through the telescope, and we said prayers and all that. It was very beautiful and powerful. And then I came home to my home where my recording studio. All of a sudden, it was just like this energy was like, get ready to receive a transmission, like from the sun. And there was a portal opening. There was definitely a portal open on that day. I think we're all aware that was a powerful collective experience with the sun, with the sun god, the Helios. And so I went to my Korg Triton Extreme keyboard, and I just sat down for an hour and pressed the record button in my computer and played for about an hour, and about 12 grooves and tracks came through in songs, compositions. And then, when it was coming through, the name was very clear. It was like Magic Kingdom.
I love
it felt like a children's album. I had been thinking of doing a kid's album. I get a lot of requests for that. And I had this idea to make a kid's album. I have a 7-year-old son, Micah. And I thought, well, maybe this is the kid's album coming through on this special day. But then as I kept playing, the grooves got deeper and more adult-like and a little more edgy, maybe a little bit more of the shadow, mysterious. And I was like, okay. But then when it was done, and for the next year, I orchestrated, arranged it. It had a life of its own, just the whole way it came together, and added some beautiful flutes and soprano sax and guitars and things.
It's beautiful.
Filed it down to 8 tracks.
Wow. Well, we're out of time, but I want to wish you the best, and I look forward to seeing you when I'm in Sedona next time, and I love what you're doing. So thank you for sharing your story with us and our listeners here, and keep that magic going, okay?
I definitely will. Thank you so much, Cindy. Lovely to talk with you.
You
Come
too.
over and hear the Magic Kingdom.
I will. Thank you.
Okay. Bless.
And that's all the time we have for this show. I want to wish you all a Very good night and happy Halloween, and we'll be back again next week on the Travel Angel Radio Show.